All right, we got coach and mentor Bernette Sherman in the house. Bernette, tell me about your vision.
My vision is a world, and I hate to almost steal this from a minister, but a world that really does work for everyone, where everyone feels valued, heard, seen, and respected. And whether they have money, whether they don't, they have their needs met, and they can have joyful, happy, fulfilling, healthy lives.
I love that. And I love that you just dove into a whole lot of areas of wealth that are often not talked about. And on your forum, you also helped us understand that you're looking at how you said, I envision a world where everyone can thrive. And that's not
Yes.
possible if you're in poverty or scraping just to get by. You vision that world of abundance, including financial abundance, and
Hmm.
how it's both possible and normal for anyone willing to create it in their lives. And you know, I'm down here in Colombia, and you talk about poverty. Drive around in Pereira for just a tiny 5-minute drive, and you're going to see poverty like most of America has never experienced, North America. And so there's a lot of opportunity to work towards eradicating poverty. And we were just talking about hope right before we hit record. And I absolutely love the way that you handle yourself as a guest, as somebody who doesn't know me. Me asking awkward questions and kind of being contrary and all that. It says a lot about you and your capacity to make space for those who are in the greatest need. And so if you were to, we're gonna keep the episode short today, but if you were to target in on advice for people who are overcoming poverty, in fact, let's focus on those who are able to help those who are overcoming poverty. What's one piece of wisdom or quick formula you would give to you can go do this now?
Whew. Practice the basic fundamentals. Go back to basics. Understand that you in life, you have things that you put out and you have things that you bring in. You can't spend more than you make, but you can also make more than you do if you have the right mindset. So don't limit yourself by what your present situation is, but also don't outpace your present situation in your spending.
There is a lot of wisdom in those fundamentals. When we're talking about budgeting and being frugal a little bit, but we're also talking about the art of expanding your mindset into what's possible and what other
Yes.
opportunities exist. And it can be it can be easy to get lost in between those realities. And of course, growth is something that stretches you, and like a seed that breaks open, we got
Mhm.
to break open a bit. That doesn't feel good to the seed, I'm sure. It doesn't feel good to me when it
It
happens.
probably it doesn't.
Part of that next level. So I love the tenderness with which you speak around that. And those of you listening in, we're going to do everything we can to get Bernette Sherman back on the show to talk further about what this abundance looks like. In the meantime, I highly recommend if you what she says resonates with you, lean in, give her a call. Find her on Google. It's not that hard these days to find these leaders, but of course you can click on the link if you're watching the show through our website. And if you're a visionary, if you've got something that's larger than life, or you're going to eradicate poverty worldwide, or you're doing something that seems maybe even small, maybe even insignificant to you locally, don't hesitate to come share that vision with us, because the ripple effect of all good deeds is absolutely, I think it's eternal. I'll just put it that way. So come bring your vision, tell us about it. Let us help you let us support your process of fulfilling it. Burnett, last piece of wisdom. Anything you want to share before we wrap up?
Oh, a word that just came to my mind was smile. Yeah, smile. I think smile to other people, smile at other people, smile at yourself. It releases something in your brain that makes you feel happier, and we could use a little bit more happiness in the world right now.
Huge. Thank you for that. My trauma coach, ChatGPT, along with Fletcher Allenson, I can't leave him out. He's also one of my coaches. But ChatGPT gave me that exact idea today as an exercise to work within limbo. going through that period of limbo, it says that's the workout room of faith. That's the
Mhm.
one day exercise you can do is appreciate the little things, like when somebody smiles at you. Take note of it. So to align today, Burnett. This is too fun.
Wow.
We'll see you guys all on the next episode. Thank you all for joining us, and have a
Thank you.
wonderful rest of your week. Woo! Way to bring the fire. Way to bring the spirit. My goodness, bring it all
That's
spiritual. I liked it.
oh. So I have to know, what do you do? What is first class business besides being a traveler?
Um, we we help market leaders. We help people who have big visions bring it to life to the next level. I've been an integrator for many wonderful companies, and helping people scale is a process that I found. One, I can't do it without a great team, and two, I can't do it without infrastructure. But I've never heard anybody speak on infrastructure at a conference, and so that process of the E-Myth talks about it. It's one of my favorite. This is a book I should have never skipped reading. It took me 8 years to dive into that thing. When I dove in, it changed everything. So Michael Gerber is a great resource for it. But he says that entrepreneurs, one, they delegate by abdication. I had to look it up. I was like, "What the heck does that mean?" I looked it up, I was like, "Oh, yeah, like giving people things you don't wanna do and not really knowing how to do it." But the challenge is even if you do scale with that, if that person ever finally gets overworked, like most VAs, we call it virtual abuse. That ever happens, they leave, and then you've got new processes and systems, but you don't understand them anymore. And
Oh, yeah.
instead, starting by developing those procedures and the templates and the resources and defining what types of roles you need and getting the right people in and gamifying it, making it a fun experience, not a drag or a grind, but something that you can enjoy. Um, Rocket Fuel built on top of that with Gino Wickman.
I'm
And
sorry, what was that?
so Gino Wickman wrote a book called Rocket Fuel, and they literally said this is built on the E-Myth. And so they did a good job of expanding it and saying, okay, like you want to get what we call an integrator. Every visionary needs an integrator. And then I really despise the book because it's good, but they cater so much towards honoring the entrepreneur and trying to get the entrepreneur to buy that they undermine the value of the integrator. And
Mm.
they literally, in the end of the book, they say they tell this story about this entrepreneur who had an integrator that was doing awesome, and after an entire year, could not tell the integrator thank you, and that he'd done a good job. But that's okay, they say in the book. It's that's okay because you're learning to. And I'm like, bull crap. I'm like, you just tell entrepreneurs what they want to hear so they come and buy from you.
Yeah. Like,
But
that's not okay.
that's not okay at
That's
all.
not okay.
So I hope they come out with a 2.0 and make that edit. Because that's just abysmal. I mean, like, what are you doing? Building next Hitler? Like not a good thing. And we need to take care of people. We need to be grateful for the people that we work with. So, but they do talk about in the book how they break down really well that okay, let's say you have two business partners that are building this business. Map out all of the essential roles that are going to be needed as you scale, and it's you have to assign yourself you can't be fired as a business owner, but you should be fireable whatever position you're not fulfilling. And then it's your job to create the job description, those processes, those procedures. That way, when you do find the right person, they're able to take the reins and build on top of it. So ultimately, we try to help entrepreneurs go through that process and do so profitably, very very fast. That's the goal. Is like let's build out a forecast. Let's make this right.
Okay.
But it's got to be they got to be brands I love. Otherwise, I just like why.
That makes sense, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's
Nice. Nice, and so you've been doing it a while.
yeah. No, I was 21 when I first when BYU told me I couldn't get into business school and I knew I needed to. I never got into business for business. I was on a mission in Uruguay and I had a 0.37 GPA
Did you
and
say 0?
zero. Yeah.
Okay.
I was and I was on that mission. I had a life-changing experience. I got slapped by an angel and told Jackson, "Why don't you go home, take advantage of your education for once, learn about business, and help as many towns like this as you possibly can." So it was a very direct message.
That is very direct.
Yeah,
That is
um,
very direct, and you didn't ignore it, like, a lot of people ignore
it's hard.
their
I did sometimes, I mean, I played my Jonah role as well. Uh, I definitely went through that, but as part it was always getting me back, and it was always part of the process, and so my first startup that I was the first employee hired at a startup that became a Y Combinator, and that's the investment program of Paul Buchheit, the inventor of Gmail, and Matt Cutts, the search director of Google. And so we ended up finally raising 10,000,000. It took losing everything to get there, but we made it. And then I launched as a junior co-founder of another company called Blue Skies Hospitality Management Systems. We changed the name quickly to Restaurant Connect. It
Mhm.
took table and took us 3 years to get to 36,000 recurring monthly revenues, but we made it. And then we made we got $100,000 from the Baylor Angel Network in their incubator program. And then my buddy Jake called me and asked if he should launch a company. I said, if you're crazy, uh, it's not. I kind of regret it now. And anyway, he told me his story, and he also said, "Jackson, the most critical person I've ever met, and I need your feedback." I was like, "I know, and I don't want to give you feedback. I'm trying to be better." And so he's like, "No, I need it." And so Jake was handpicked by the founder of YouTube to represent YouTube Ads before YouTube Ads launched.
Oh, wow.
He's one of 9 companies that got picked for that. He was at Zag and built a channel of 23 million subscribers back in, like, 2011 or 12. No,
That's huge,
10 or
especially back then. When
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, they were dropping bowling balls on iPads and so graphic motion and shooting them with shotguns and stuff. Like, "If this happens to your phone, you need a case to protect it." Yeah, so, um
Very
yeah,
dramatic.
headquarters, and, their goal YouTube hadn't launched the ads platform, and so they're coming up with, "How do we make an ads platform that's better than TV?" And so the 10 ambassadors that were there came up with the idea that if the ad sucks, you should be able to skip it. Hence why we have the 5-second skip process, and Jake came out with a course that's called "Turn Your Views into Sales," and then he started to launch the ads and stuff, and so a few years later, I begged him for a job through LinkedIn, and he brought me in to help him scale that, and that was the most mind blowing experience because I went from businesses that were startups and scrappy and scarcity is the thing to our minimum client was spending $10,000 a month on YouTube ads,
Wow.
and so
Yeah,
we
that's a
had
big difference.
we had Nordic Track, we had .com, Vivint, and then we had John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire, and shortly after I joined, Todd from Laserway came on. He had 8 locations, then I have 40. Spytech Inc. came on. Michael Hyatt came on. T. Harv Eker, Lewis Howes, Billy G. Marketing. All these people started to become clients, and I started to opt into all of their funnels and started to opt in. So we were put in the room where we were the YouTube experts, but the LinkedIn expert was there, and the Instagram expert, and the Facebook expert. And I was like, "Oh, cool, Jonathan Loomis. Oh, and Rick Mulready." And so I started
You can
opting
learn from all of them.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. So it
Wow.
the world is very, very different at the top. And so I haven't made it to the top, and I think that's the inevitable path with an abundant mindset, right? Is where that's I think what you talk a lot about too. Is I'm
Yes.
I'm from a divorced family with a whole lot of trauma. I'm still learning to work through. I am twice divorced. I don't plan on collecting more of those trophies. Um, yeah, trying to figure that out. I got 4 beautiful kids, and I've always been dad first. It's always been the most important thing to me.
But
Um,
that's very important
and
because
we do what we
we raise humans that go into the world that affect other humans.
yes, very important.
Yeah.
So what you do again, like it speaks to my heart. I've got I got so many family like members in Uruguay and here in Colombia and now in Ecuador and out in Panama, and they they need those of us with the privilege to step up and help them see what we see.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
thank you
see
for the
what's
extra time.
possible.
I know I went over, but I'm like, your vision
No,
is
no,
beautiful.
this is great. I'd love to hear people. I'm a writer. I love backstories. I love to
Nice.
know, like, these are my nonfiction books. I've written, like, a bunch of not fiction books as well, like sci-fi and
Cool.
fantasy and, so I
That's
like
awesome.
stories.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You Do you wanna come back on the show?
Yes.
You wanna book for next week?
Yes. Next week?
What would be the best timeline for you, ultimately?
No, no, I mean, next week is fine. I'm just gonna pull up my calendar so I can
Oh, sure. Will as
look at
well,
that.
and
Now, I will say that I think from June to now, like, my balance of my focus shifted. Like, I was doing probably money and health like this, and now it's kinda like health and money, like.
mhm, yeah,
And, one reason is because I realized, well, if you've seen the state of the world currently. Um,
mhm,
so it's interesting. People buy this book online. I see, people buying it online. I'm like, it's reaching people and it's touching people, but a lot of people need to feel something tangible. They need to be able to see something, like, physical and real. And then when I went through my physical transformation a couple years ago, it opened up everything else, all the other possibilities. It was like by changing my body, I knew what I was capable of doing, and it forced a mindset shift as well that allowed me to say, "Okay, it's okay for me to talk about money. It's okay for me to talk about manifestation." I understand what like, it allowed me to get fully in my body, because I think in order to manifest, you have to be fully present in your body as well as, spiritual
yeah,
and mental, but you have to be present in your body.
mhm.
Okay, I got off track, I'm sorry.
No, no,
Um,
no. No, I'm glad you did. I'm really, really grateful you did because you pulled some facts together that, one, I can y you're either like the devil or you're a very whole person.
I'm old.
You get where I'm going with that, right? Like, it's you got a lot of wisdom packed in into a lot of power that you're talking about, and you just talked about a subject that is one that I'm a big believer in, but I rarely hear people that talk about manifestation tie it to other principles. And so I'm glad that you started that. And this is where my contrarian stuff comes in. It's like some people will clash very hard with me because I'm very, very dedicated to intent and like the intentionality of word choice and the leadership. That's why we were able to, like, Dr. Eric Berg was one of our clients too at Video Power. And I told he had 160,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I was the guy who told him you have the worst website I've ever seen. And he didn't get mad. He wrote it down. Right. And I gave him some tips. And Dr. Eric Berg's at 14 million subscribers now. The changes that he was willing to make and do made a big difference. But if you're okay, I'd like to stick with your tangent for a minute because I want to see. I'm always looking for the right formulas, and I'm not God. So I'm just another mathematician writing on my chalkboard and looking at a mathematician's chalkboard to go on, what do you got? And
Yeah,
explaining recipes. But here's my dilemma with the manifested, the way the world is talking about it. Um, and I think a lot of people are scared of it because of this, because of good reason. I very much agree. The law of manifestation is huge, and the law of attraction. They both are powers that can be accessed. And a long time ago, there was a guy named Moses, and he went to a guy named Pharaoh, and he's like, "Hey, let my people go." Right, and Pharaoh's like, "You know what? That might be a good idea." But here comes Pharaoh's business consultants. I mean, life coaches. No, I mean, so
his
priests.
wizards are his. Yeah.
Here they come, and they tell him like, "Hey, what he's able to do, we're able to do too," and they're able to manifest
Uh-huh.
everything that Moses is able to manifest, to where Pharaoh just didn't know what to do. And so the modern world no longer really pays attention to or believes in the the negative side, the dark side of that. A lot of it. And that is something that there's a lot of manifestation gurus out there just teaching just manifest, just manifest, just manifest. And
Yeah,
there's two
I'm
powers.
not on that
Yes.
plane.
There's two powers. So I'm grateful that you were willing to bring it up and are able to talk about it. And I hope that you continue to champion that cause while also helping people realize the caveat of like, whoa, there's two powers you can manifest with here. Make sure you're manifesting with the right one because oftentimes
Yes.
you can. There was a horror movie that came out that I'm grateful for. I don't normally watch them, but my ex had an obsession with dark stuff. Should have been a sign. Should have been a sign. But that horror movie was about somebody who, was using a Ouija board to access their daughter, right, and talk to their daughter, but they weren't. They were talking to a demon. And it's like, no, duh. Like that but people don't get it. They're so
There's a lot
taken
of other stuff on the other side that
to what they believe.
people and it's interesting because I'm spiritual, but I no longer, I guess, kind of resonate with the all is light thing because I know all is not light. Like there's there's always a continuum.
Right.
Whatever's on one side is going to be on the other. And I'm a natural medium and channel. So I've seen stuff on the other side and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to talk to that. I don't want that helping me. I don't want that, that energy being where I create my life from.
Right.
And that's not what I
Right.
want to tap into. And if you're not careful when you go about manifesting, you could tap into whatever is the first energy to grab hold, but then it comes with something. And yeah, you have to be very careful.
Yep. 100%. Thank you, Burnett.
Very careful.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
My audience deserves that type of protection. So I appreciate you being willing to talk about it. Do you want to do you have
Yes.
a date in mind?
Next week, I can do this day works again. I don't know if Wednesdays are good for you, but the Wednesday works again.
Let me just check.
Next week is pretty during the day.
Can we move it forward, meaning a little bit earlier, 30 minutes earlier?
Yes. Yes.
Let me do that. All right. I will duplicate this invite
12 PM,
and I'm going to move that to
October 8th.
8th at 12 Eastern. That is sent.
Swipe the phone.
And we'll be able to just dive right in on that. Also, if you would like to, of course, at another time talk about growth, what you're up to, I'm always open for that too.
You know what? Do you wanna talk about that next week? Or do you wanna
I mean, outside the podcast.
outside the podcast. Yes. It's interesting because I'm literally transitioning my health coaching business today. So, from me doing everything on my own to working with a program where I don't have to do everything on my own anymore. Because I really, really love my time freedom. Like,
Yeah,
I love my freedom and flexibility.
yeah, it's important.
Yeah, it really is, and I found that,
I'd be a hypocrite if I said it wasn't down here in
yeah,
Colombia. So, yeah,
I love it, and I love, one of my first roles is, ama de casa. You've probably heard of that term, love of home, and being a mom, a wife, those are, like, my first jobs, and then everything else
good for you.
is around that.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
that law of abundance. So, yeah, well, you know best. It's your vision, and you know what's there. And so, I would the only thing I would share in relation to that is I'm very impressed by a lot of the billionaires and multimillionaires out there who seem to recognize that when you take 1 plus 1, it often equals 11. Right, the compound effect. If you bring in the wrong ones, right? If I bring in 2 people that are not gonna get along, you can get 1 minus 1, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the abundance world, it's like, okay, when Tesla was ramping up to launch 180,000 cars, what did they do? Did they say, "Well, I've already got one person to do all that," or did they look at, "Well, wait a second, how do we scale that?" So, um, whatever the program is, it only entices me and excites me. Oh, cool. Who'd you bring? Who's helping build this? Because your vision is. It seems like your vision is global. Is that accurate?
So for my money, that is anywhere. Um, but that's still just my project. The Money Mojo, mindset manifestation, my health coaching business, that work. I'm now working with an organization, a program. So my own stuff with manifestation and money, that's still that's still me.
Mhm. I didn't catch how that ties to global, though.
Oh, because it can serve everyone.
Yes, that's
And,
what I
like, and part of my seeding into it is, like the film festival. Essentially, we're financially backing helping financially back this initiative so that they can reach more people and help bring it to life.
and your health program, is that a local thing or is that a national? And I'm not familiar
It
with that.
is, um, s some of the things can be done globally. So,
Cool.
as long not everywhere in the world has access to it, but there's different places in the world that can do it. The
Well, you just your spirit as a leader draws me. That's really that's the big thing I look for people who are they have 10 years of experience. That's the first thing I look for. If they've got years of experience, they've got resolve, they've got tenacity, they know their market, they understand the pains, like they understand the restrictions. It's easy to know that they're gonna know what they're doing. Business owner wise, I look for business owners that have 3 to 5 years of experience typically because 'cause they've been kicked in the teeth enough to know that it's not easy, and that they can't do it alone. They need people by their side and they're a little bit more humble than those who are just getting started. And so
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah, sometimes you don't know enough to know that you don't know.
nope,
You
right?
don't
And then on the visionary side, right, so is a vision one that is scalable, and something that with that scale, do they have the mindset of abundance? Are they able and willing to look at abundance and profitability? If that's all, like, if those are the pieces, then they gotta be able to have, like, a healthy respect for our boundaries, our values. Love is our foundation, patience, persistence, consistency, and reliability. If they're
Mm,
working towards all 5 of those, then they have the ability to be champions at an entirely new level, and ones that I'm enjoying working with. If they don't, then it's like, "Oh, I don't wanna work with somebody who's
you don't wanna work with
not patient or not loving or inconsistent or unreliable." Like, that's just a recipe set up for disaster. So we don't
well, no, it's
that's
not any
awesome. You're
fun.
like video games for me. So I would be happy to talk further and more so listen to what it is that you're up to and how you wanna bring it together, and again, without eating into that balance of life
Right,
is key.
right.
It should support it.
Yeah, let me think about that because yeah, let me think about that.
Yeah.
Between now and when we talk, because that is actually one of the things that as I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do more of my health coaching." What does that mean for? Because essentially, for the money thing, I have a I have the book. I have the money skills book, which is accessible. They're both on Kindle Unlimited, so anybody my goal was to make it accessible. Anybody who has Kindle Unlimited, who has Kindle, can get these books, and I've put a lot of information. Like, the Manifest Money is my exact formula that I use to create a seven-figure life for our household, like, that I use to manifest the life we have.
Okay,
It's
I wanna
what
throw
I
something
did.
out there. I wanna throw something out there, and I want you to
Mhm.
do me a big favor. When
Yes.
you talk, if you feel any sense and need to be the Mark Twain, the contrarian with me, please do it. But I'm gonna share something with you regarding finances and money
Mhm.
that's gonna blow your mind.
Alright, I'm
And
listening.
I don't think you've ever heard before. And it's
Alright.
scary because it's a formula and it's a recipe of success for entrepreneurs and the entire world. That if they would lean in and use it, it would change everything overnight.
Alright, I'm listening.
Well, I'm not gonna do now. I mean, when we talk
Oh.
we talk next. No, because I wanted like I want us to marinate. I think it's a really wise idea. Let's do that. This has been such a great time. And it's again, I don't think you'll use it. It's long. It's not like a secret like 1 + 1 = 2. It's a little bit long, but I want main reason is I want your perspective, Burnett.
Ah,
Well, I want it's just a perspective of mine, and I may be limited too. But that's the type of belief and conviction that I have in what it is. And I've had a really hard time helping entrepreneurs dive into it. But the ones who have, change everything.
But you know what? I'm definitely curious, of course, because yeah, I like to know.
How much time do you have? I don't wanna eat into your time.
Like
Don't worry about that.
I have more time. I have more time because one of the things is like there's a way that one person does it, but that's just the way that one person does it. Like this is what worked for me. It worked for me consistently.
Right.
It doesn't mean that someone else's thing isn't going to work for them or work for other people consistently. It's like there's more than one way to skin a cat, as the old
There
saying
is.
goes.
There
It's just
is.
the result at
And
the
here's the
end.
neat thing about it, though, like, here's that going back to the abundance on it, right?
Yeah,
Just
there's many
because
ways.
just because a brake pedal might save my life does not eradicate the need for a seatbelt,
Ex
right? So,
right.
juxtapositioning is not necessary in most cases. I would bet that what I teach and how we go about it coincides in complete harmony for complete protection, for complete security for others. So I bet it goes hand in hand with your formula, not against.
It probably does. It's like that's one reason why I signed up with this program. I wrote my Who Moved My Curves book after my journey, and then I stumbled on this program and did the audiobook. It's like 19-hour long audiobook, but I'm listening to it and there was nothing out of alignment with what I'd said. It was a slightly different perspective. He's a doctor, so he went really deep into science and health and conditions and wider, but the general ideas still lined up. And I was like, I can get behind this because it still aligns with what I know is a truth. Like I can speak to this and not be hypocritical or not be feeling as if I'm saying something I don't believe in because I can't do that. So when I did that, I was like, oh, it matches,
That's cool.
you know? It just makes it broader and it takes it to another level.
Huge. All right,
Yeah.
I'll give it to you if you wanna spend the time. I'm happy.
Okay, hold on. I gotta turn my volume up again because for some reason it's a little low hearing you and I don't want to
So,
miss anything.
let me check I've been messing. I just got here today, so, my equipment's all over the place probably. How do I adjust my level? I bet that's way better.
Oh, that is.
Okay, is it better or is it hot?
Well, I
Let's try
turned my volume
let's
way
try
up.
this. I'm gonna turn mine on automatic now and see if that works. Okay, yeah, you might wanna tune your volume back down now.
I turned it
Um,
back down, so
yeah. Is it a normal tone now?
that sounds normal.
Okay,
Yes.
good, good. Yeah, where I was last, the microphone was doing funny things. They had me adjust it, and I forgot. I was like, "I gotta shift it back," so I'm be all quiet in these podcasts whispering.
I could
Uh,
say what makes people lean in.
yeah, for sure. So that way to thank you for justifying my bad mic quality. Oh, I like that. Very positive. Okay, so, with entrepreneurs, the one trust has to be established for them to understand and value what it is we're talking about. And so, me just being me without any context does not help people understand the value of what's possible with these means because people often fear great resources. Like the greater the resource, the bigger the fire, the scarier it looks to most people. Right. It's the same thing that brings electricity to our house, though. Right. Water in abundance, it can kill people. It's not always something that can be used for all resources can be used for good and for bad. The resource is not the challenge. So when it comes to finances, what most business owners are just so ignorant to how finances work that they don't explore their options. They'll only move with what they understand. And the problem with that is their perspective is limited to perspectives that aren't based on wealth. They're based on scarcity and based on survival modes. So those principles that help us when we're in survival are not bad. We don't throw those out the window, but we do need to shift into a mindset of okay, like what can we do to thrive here? And with that, raising capital is one of the most important things entrepreneurs can do. But almost everybody instantly shifts to go to sharks, go to venture capital. And that's the extreme, right? Or go to banks, which I'm actually pro go to banks. But you have to remember that there's rules that are in place for capitalism's sake. that protect the banks and that protect venture capitalists, and they're gonna know those rules like the back of their hand. They're gonna make sure that they are always protected, and whatever type of loan they provide you, like, while they might have you turn in a business summary or a business plan, they don't care. They never check to see if you fulfill it. Not there to coach you and guide you on it. All they care is that they got you to get the bank loan, and they hope you fulfill it, and they're gonna make so much money off of that interest and off of their insurance associated with it too. Like, they're already protected. They don't care as much as they probably should. So we can't fight the system on that. At least I can't yet. That's not my fight. But my fight is with the everyday entrepreneur who is kind of burned by that and who's hiding from it and who's now turned their blind eyes towards, like, well, fine, I got screwed by credit cards, I got screwed by banks, I got screwed, so now I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to gamble on my business in small bits and hope that that pays off. And I'm not going to call it a get rich quick because I know I'm not supposed to say those words, but everything I do is going to be aligned with get rich quick. See, there's a
Interesting.
big, there's a big
Interesting.
dilemma going on there. Whereas we both know that the compound effect has a curve. I don't know, kinda like a bell curve. I'm not a real student anyway, so whatever curve that is, whatever point that is, of inflection, let's say today we put $100 in a savings account. In a year from now, if we have a 3% yield, we've made $103. Like, we made $3 on it. So we got 103 now. Well, we just lost money because of inflation.
Right.
We could have just spent it. Why bother putting in a savings account if it's gonna depreciate over time unless you put, you know, 100,000,000 into that bank account. Put 100,000,000 in that bank account and you get 3,000,000 back, but you've lived within your means. Below the 3,000,000, you've gained excess money. You
Right.
understand the concept. Most people theoretically understand it, but they most of them don't even know how to do that math. And that's okay. But with the entrepreneurs, because yields are so much higher when you run a business, if you're investing enough money in it, you can create a compound effect way beyond 3% gains, way beyond 20% gains. It depends on your profit margin. It depends on how you set up your infrastructure for your business and know how to run your business. But the beauty of it is, with the right types of teams, you can win on investments that cost less than the infrastructure of your own house. But the challenge is the infrastructure of a house still costs around $250,000. What's scary to me is the amount of business owners who think they're going to build something to sustain thousands of people with less money than they're investing to sustain their little family. Like, why are 96% of businesses losing then within 10 years? That's a 50 to 100-year stat. If you and I sent our kids to a school where the statistic was a failure rate of 96%, what would we do to that school?
We wouldn't go.
Yeah, I'd probably burn it down. I'm a Texan. We're not cool with that. We would not allow that school to operate. We would do whatever we could to shut it down. Not okay. But entrepreneurs have been going to that school for 100 years. That's crazy. 4% of people, I used to think 4% of people succeed. No, 4% survive the 10-year mark. If you talk to any entrepreneur who's been in business for longer than 10 years, if you can get underneath the iceberg of, hey, we're doing well, we're doing not, why do they do that? Because if they tell you they're doing bad, nobody's buying.
Right.
They gotta fake it. They gotta help people see that they're crushing it. That's what their mentality says, at least. But what that's doing is it's just straining them. They just know how to grind more, know how to hustle harder. They're blue collar. Oftentimes, if they've won beyond the 10-year mark, it's not a bad thing, but it's also not the American dream that people signed up for. And so that challenge that exists of seeing these business owners that have higher debts, they have families that are a little bit more broken and jaded than they want to admit. They've got, they're at the baseball games if they're lucky, but they're still in this position of, like, grinding it out. So the challenges that exist, again, those all are all over the place, but very few people, I've only heard one person teach this publicly, teach about promissory notes. You familiar with it?
Promise Renos?
Promissory notes,
Oh, promissory notes. Yes, where you make a promise to yourself to.
ultimately. So a promissory note is just a fancy lawyer term for a credit card agreement, but with a friend or family member.
Mhm.
And again, a lot of people are like, don't do business with family. Well, they don't know what the success side of that looks like, and they're not going to make it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the success side of what that looks like, look at any NBA or NFL player, anybody like that. When you become successful and you've excluded your friends and family from the path and they didn't help support you to get there, and you decide not to help them back, what
Mhm.
happens to that relationship?
Oh, it's gonna be tense.
It's gone too. So whether you include the family members in the business or you don't include the family members in the business, that's not the point. Yes, you can lose friends and family over business as well if you include them. But I promise, I guarantee you, you will lose them by leaving them out of your wealth growth as well. So that's not the answer. It's not whether to leave them out or leave them in. It's about learning to communicate and set healthy boundaries with individuals. So if we take promissory note, the reality of that, which means, and you can look this up on ChatGPT, by the way, uh, is a promissory note legal? How do you use it? It can guide you to some extent on that. But what the one person I know that teaches it besides me doesn't teach is how to set up healthy boundaries, how to make sure people are investing for the right reasons. And how do you do that? You find investors who believe in the cause and the vision of what you're doing.
Yes.
Because if they are doing it because they care about what you're up to, if you're eradicating child poverty or sexual abuse or whatever that is, if they believe that you're the person who's going to go after that and do it, they don't want to do it themselves, but they will fund it. And yeah, maybe they will take $10,000 out of what they were going to spend on their Lexus. But which investment is more important, a Lexus or the ability to eradicate poverty amongst children? They know what that looks like, but they don't trust most people to pull that off.
Yeah.
But if you, as a friend or family, are somebody who is consistent and reliable, and you are persistent, and you are patient, and you're loving, and you're not twisting people's arms to do this, but you're helping them realize, look, you might sign this check today, and I might die tomorrow. You do realize that, right? You got to set also all these little healthy boundaries. Not a lot of them, but you got to learn what those are. Then you can get people onto a promissory note that is a win-win. That's another big key. We're not talking about begging for money. We're not talking about getting money we won't get back either. But
Right.
let's say I've got a, a rich neighbor. I live in Texas. Guess what? 99% of my neighbors are rich. Welcome to Texas. When I say rich, they're first world rich. What does that mean? That means they have the ability to access, most of them, over $100,000, whether it's through loans, credit cards, their own 401ks that they might have, their own savings accounts. There's a lot of different capital accessible.
Mhm.
And if I do an agreement with them, let's say they just decide to do a personal loan. We went the dangerous route. They get a personal loan for 8% because they have a great credit score and they don't need to have that money, but they want to support the project. I can sign a promissory note with them to pay them 18%
Right. Yeah.
or 16% or 15%. The algebra is in their favor. And now I can also put that promissory note into a, just like a credit card, no payments for 18 months. You got to give me 18 months to use this
Before you do that. Yep.
to build up.
That makes sense.
So the question comes down to, do I trust myself as a business owner? Right? Do I really believe in myself? Do I believe that I'm going to be able to turn that financial capital, that financial backing into a gain? Could that turn into a Ponzi scheme specifically? Sure. Somebody could completely do the wrong thing with it. And can you lose? Yes. But if you're upfront with your promissory notes and you build those based on healthy relationships and based on healthy boundaries, one, they're not going to take you to court. People don't win in court because of what's written on paper. They win in court when they have the best lawyer.
Uh,
Yeah. I don't lose my first marriage because of what was written on paper. We were sealed for time and all eternity. It took all of 1 second to shred that sucker in half. The paper doesn't really matter. The paper is important to help people feel safe and help people understand that you're being legitimate about how you do things.
yeah.
But there's the promissory notes, there's personal credit cards, of course, business credit cards. Most business owners don't even know there's a different credit score for business than there is for personal. And they don't know that you should be building that credit score up. They don't know that QuickBooks, if you've been a customer for 2 years, you automatically qualify for QuickBooks Capital loans. They don't know that Stripe provides loans. They know that PayPal provides loans because PayPal is aggressive with their marketing.
Yes, they
Um,
are.
and Discover has great personal loans. And so these different pieces, it's just logic. It's just information, but it's information that gets people really uncomfortable. And that discomfort, it's far easier to blame finances than it is to take responsibility as a business owner.
Now, do you
So
think it makes them uncomfortable? Why do you think it makes them uncomfortable? And what part? Is it the promissory note part that makes them uncomfortable? Because they
no,
don't want to ask their
I
friends?
think in money in general. I think, most people in general, one, I actually don't have a hard time talking to people about money, so they don't have a hard time talking about it with me. I learned that from Taylor and Peyton Welch. They used to run the Sales Mentor. They got shut down. Well, they shut down before they got shut down. Wise move. FCC was gonna come for 'em. But they did have a great sales training program, and in that they said, "If you make money awkward, other people will feel awkward about money. If you make money natural, people will talk to you about it." So, I don't have a challenge talking to people about their credit score, past bankruptcies, etcetera. I learned to just go with the conversation, and so people follow me into that.
Right.
Most entrepreneurs will nod their head, but they won't go have the conversation with people. So, Laurel Langemeyer, one of the greatest sharks on the planet, she will tell you that it's because we're conditioned from a young age never to ask people about money. And I don't disagree with that. You don't ask about finance. You don't talk about personal finances. In certain cultures, like, it's a real big no-no. And never tell people your wish, right? You don't tell your wish; it always won't come true. No, that's just cheap parents that don't want to get the present for the kid.
If they
That's some
don't
cheap.
know, then they can't get.
I like that. I was like, "That is really cool. I'll take that too." But she also will eat people alive, and I'm not cool with that. And so there's principles of wealth, but do I have the answer? No, I don't have the answer. I need to talk to at least 10,000 people. Right? Then I'll have a better idea of what that answer looks like. But I do think that her theory on that is something that I support, and I do believe that it comes down to fears too. Fear of the unknown being one of them, fear of success and fear of failure. However, that imposter syndrome comes in and hits people. There's a there's a lot to that, but if we could help, one of the biggest ways to overcome that is to realize, why do people make decisions to begin with, right? And I think most people. There's a great movie on this. It's called The Experimenter. Phenomenal, one of the best movies I've ever seen. Stanley Milgram is the social scientist experimenter who was using electric shock on people in this experiment that I'm not gonna ruin the movie. You guys see the movie. It is the most mind blowing thing because it puts you in the middle of, is he actually hurting the world, or was the media twisting his story to sell newspapers? And is a very, very cool thing. But at the end of it, it talks about how he's able to prove that over 80% of people are stuck in what's called an agentic state. And when you're in an agentic state, you're just a puppet. And you think you're making your own decisions?
Switching.
You're not. And the reason why he tested these theories and did what he did is because he's Jewish. And he wanted to know why the heck Germans were willing to follow Hitler's orders and kill millions of people that were everyday, normal people just like you and I. Why was it that? And so, was it that the German people are bad and easily manipulatable, or are we all like that? And so he got it proved up to 80%. Later studies proved it over 90%. And so people who say things like, "That's not my job," that is an agentic statement of, you're not really taking an action based on your belief. You're following a set of puppeteering principles. So the key on that, so back to our key, if we want to overcome that, I think we have to learn to respect the lack of agency while respecting freedom enough to be able to have the same type of influence that somebody like Grant Cardone does. Grant Cardone is a great leader of sheeple. He tells people what to do. He tells them how to do it. He does not respect their individual. I used to be a lot like Grant Cardone, a lot like him, until I realized it was ruining my best relationships. And that's where I realized, no, this is not the type of leadership. I don't want to lead with coercion and manipulation. I don't want to lead with pressure. I want people to be able to make their own choices for things. But if we get enough people that are making the right moves for their own reasons, the inevitable reality is people watch what other people do and they follow. If everybody's going to the football game, Everybody wants to go to the football game. If everybody's watching the Super Bowl for the commercials, everybody else wants to watch Super Bowl for the commercials. And so we've got to get enough leaders. This comes from a book called Tribal Leadership, as well. If you can get the tribal leaders, if you can find those ones and move them, their tribe will follow. The people who are currently following them. So that's my theory on it. But the reality is promissory notes are completely legal. They're completely open. Americans are making bad investments every day in the stock market and elsewhere that's not really making much of a return. But if they would invest in business owners like you and I, people they can trust, then they can make a better return and everybody could have a win-win because now the business owners would have the finances they need to be able to scale their brands. You don't need a lot to scale a brand with advertising, but you do need at least $5,000. If you don't have that, you're gambling. But if you're putting $5,000 into an advertising campaign that gets optimized really well by a technician who understands the art of conversion rate optimization, then
Mhm.
you can put a money machine in your pocket for your business. And then you have to know how to scale the rest. If I scale my ads to the point where I've got 100 calls, I better have somebody who can take 100 calls.
And the product that's gonna return the investment for the value of whatever that is.
That's right. And so I
Wow.
gotta have a team that's able to put that together, like exactly all those little bitty increments, right? You've got to have somebody who understands those pieces, or I say somebody, back to the integrator theory. No, I gotta have a team that really gets that. And if I can put great teams together, then I can create abundance in very, very big ways. There's a reason there's a Starbucks in every corner.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. There's a reason why Mark Zuckerberg buys billion-dollar companies, and knows which ones to and recruits people for 100 million from ChatGPT. Like they've got certain formulas, and we have the ability to access those formulas. But if we're not in a position to magnify that compound effect for ourselves, if we're still in a point where we have $100, that $3 compound effect, the principle is not wrong, but
No,
we haven't made it to that turning point yet.
where it's enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your
Very
thoughts on that? I'd love your thoughts.
well, I've heard of promissory notes, not that long ago, I guess a couple years ago, when I started my private capital business, which probably sounds more impressive than it is, but basically real estate lending,
Yeah.
and I've worked only with either, um only person I've lent to so far is actually a relative because they're in the market that is still growing, and so but we did a I looked into promissory notes as an option with him and then decided to instead go through the company and
Mhm.
do a, like, hard money loan. But I looked at promissory notes as because I was evaluating, like, all the different ways I could structure providing money to someone else for, a deal.
Yeah.
But I had not thought of it because one of the things that we were like, "How do we use our capital to turn more of an investment? How do we do that more?" And it's like, well, I would love to lend to small businesses, right? But so many small businesses, to your point, and I've done the research as well, they don't succeed. And I'm like, I don't necessarily want to put my money on the line for a lot of the small businesses that they might have a good product, but they may not have the people behind the scenes who are able to make it successful, or they don't have the whole package to make sure that you're gonna get your money back, and
Yep. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And it's where that's why it's so important to go all the way on the opportunity and not worry about the lost interest in the process because you're gonna be making the money back over time anyways. And so let's say that we had one friend give $100,000 loan, right? And you had 18 months to pay that off, but man, that's a lot of money. Right? And that can be a little bit scary. But you keep going and you get 4 more friends who give $10,000 loans. And now you've got the you got the infrastructure that you need. You've got some extra cushioning as well. They're also on the 18 months, no payback. But your business to get profitable ends up only needing between 50 to 70,000 of what that money looks like. And so you've still got all that other money there. But this is that type of scenario where a credit card provider says, "Hey, you can pay a credit card off with our credit card." Because that does happen. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes you have that type of so if we were to then take some of that money and pay back the $10,000 person, 2 of those early, which 2? The 2 that are most excited, that are most invested, and they're like, "Whoa, wait a second, you had an 18-month clause here. What well, we're doing well, the business is moving forward." And you're like,
Reinvent that baby. Sorry.
"That's exactly right. You nailed it. That's exactly right. They're gonna want you to reinvest it." And so
Mhm.
now you get a reinvestment, maybe they up it to 20,000 even, but maybe they stay at 10,000, doesn't really matter. The point being, you now have a cash reserve that you can use to start paying off the $100,000 loan as well.
Right.
And so each one of these loan stacking opportunities, and again, you've got to be turning your business profitable. But if you're working with a team that knows how to create a profitable business within a matter of 6 months, that's the next key is like, okay, who does that? Well, that's what we do. That's what I know how to do. But we need businesses that have the cash flow and the cash reserve to be able to make sure that any mistake or any failed launch or any flop or any adjustment that has to be made because your programs you thought they're amazing and your 3 clients loved them, but everybody else online is going, "I don't know about this." Like, we can't tell which business owners have amazing assets until it's tested over time, until we get to see what the market does. So you either have to have the time on your side or you can wait it out or you can advertise. Because when you advertise, people hate ads. But if you can get a profitable advertising campaign, I'll,
Yeah,
show
people
you real
do.
quick how
I
we go.
hate ads.
Most people do. Most people hate ads because they never learn how to make it work. And so I love ads, but I only learned that at Video Power. Before that, I said ads, are a waste of money. Nobody's going to be able to. I'm not going to know if these views are even worth anything. And again, I was gambling. We didn't know, and so we would turn off. But when your advertising strategy, when you learn that, okay, you have full control over all of the variables, every single one of them. The only thing you don't have control over is you can't advertise something that's illegal. But the cost per view itself, do you see this calculator?
Mhm. I see it.
So in this case, this business owner spent $500 on ads like most people, 500 or less. They lost $500 and so they blame Mark Zuckerberg. They say Facebook ads sucks, they don't work. What they don't realize is if this would have been their formula, if this is the numbers that they were hitting, which is not too different from the normal numbers, if they would have just spent $40 more, this particular company would have seen their first $2,000 transaction. But they were cheap about it. And they didn't understand the unknown. And instead of getting advice from somebody, and they don't know who to turn to because most advertisers don't know how to do this either, it's just a matter of fear of the unknown. But these are not full statistics. My ads for my clients get a 1 cent cost per view. Why? Because my ads matter to people. So the real key here is if your ad sucks, which most businesses do, but they blame Mark Zuckerberg instead of taking ownership. If you put a newsletter out there that nobody wants or a webinar nobody wants to
Oh,
see, what's that?
ads are so confusing, like, to actually unless you're an ads person.
That's right. So we need to
They're
do our job, right? We got to stay in our lane and hire the people to do us. Is ads? I don't run ads. No way. You're right. There's a lot of moving parts of it, but I do train my team on who to follow, and it's Nick Therio. Nick Therio is the guy to follow. He's an e-commerce guy though. He only does ads at $17,000 a month minimum. But he does everything on YouTube. Show you exactly what he does for his $100 million and victories for his clients. Anyway, the cost per view if your ad sucks, they're gonna push the cost for you up because Facebook does not wanna lose business by people complaining about ads. So if the ad gets complained about, see fewer ads like this or no engagement, it gets punished. But if the ad is good and people like the ad and they wanna see more of that type of content, they lower the cost and they can lower it as much as 1 cent. Well, if you move from 14 cents to 1 cent, you don't get 3,000 views, you get 50,000. And if they really liked your ad, they're not just gonna have a 1% click through rate. If you're putting out a free dessert or a book like yours, Who Moved My Curves? Then, well, when I launched the book for medicine and the gospel, because it was so well liked by the LDS community, the author got a 7%. No, I'm sorry, got a 5% click through rate.
wow.
Instead of 750 clicking through, it had 2,500 click through. And so again, these metrics matter. If we're selling books, you're not gonna make $2,000 per book. It has to
Yeah.
be tied to the rest of your ecosystem. But if you're only measuring based on the book and you don't have an ecosystem, that's not Facebook's fault. That's your business model's fault. But he still came out profitable with 50,000 new observers of the book who might buy it for Christmas or at another time. And so there's lots of variables that go into all of this. And that's why that calculator is tiny. This calculator is the beast
Oh,
that
yeah.
tackles all the different variables, show rates, close rates, your cost per application, your upsells, your downsells, your cross sells, like those metrics matter. And so the the advertising is again, the nice thing is you don't have to spend on billboards anymore. You just have to spend $10,000 to get a billboard. Now you can spend low. You can spend $500 on Facebook and get an idea of the direction of your ads and see what's happening, and then continue to reinvest or optimize based on the
Have you
results you get.
done sorry.
Mhm.
Have you done a book recent? Because I follow a bunch of different author pages, and groups and all of that. Have you seen a change in the performance of books on Facebook versus, like, I don't know if you do Amazon as well, where people are direct in the market versus, like, a step back?
You know, the biggest thing I see in the book market is a bunch of broke authors,
There's a
and I mean, they spend a lot of money to get the book launched. It's actually the one asset. You're already ahead of the curve. You're already out there in the market. You have things that you can do to help yourself further with it. But, and so don't take this personally what I say because it's about the market, not about you. But I've met lots of authors who've spent over 300,000 and still struggle tremendously. And they're never recoup their costs because they're not willing to learn what they need to learn to fix it. But the 'cause and it's multifaceted, so it's just too hard for them. But the problem with publishing a book for most people is they're not gonna repeat publish like you have, and they're not doing it because it's a passion, right? You do it because you love it too. But most of these people do it because they're taught that's gonna give them authority in the market and give them credibility. But the problem is when Jack comes on my show and starts talking about his book. And the fifth time he says, Jax, I don't mean to bring my book up again. And I say, yes, you do, Jack. You brought it up 5 times, and that's okay. But while we're at it, since you do keep bringing it up, I got to ask you, Jack, you got 300 clients, agency clients, family members, and friends. Your book's been out for more than 6 months, and you've only got 3 reviews. What happened?
how how do I solve that problem? Because I don't. Because the reviews is the beast of Amazon, like,
Good
I
for you for answering that way. That's not how Jack answered. He was pissed. He was not happy that I called him out like that. But look, if I hadn't, my whole audience would be questioning my authority and wondering why the heck I'm letting him skim by without that type of proof and authority that's there. It's like, no, if you don't have the reviews, most people are going to go buy the books that are underneath it that have thousands of reviews or
and
600 reviews.
that's the challenge that, like,
Yeah.
because I used to advertise, I'm like, "Until you have X number of reviews," it's almost like just throwing money
Yeah. It's,
away
it,
because
it,
people aren't gonna buy it until they see.
well, it can feel like that, but that's advertising as a gamble. And that's the
Yeah,
challenge is we've gotta shift the mindset, the strategy, and that infrastructure. And so you do gotta get the reviews up, and it is painful to get reviews. It's not easy, to do that. But if you think about it from a
at least
compound.
not legally, or I should say not according to
Right.
Amazon. Like, I'm like,
Well,
"You
and
can't."
the compound effect, it goes back to the one-minute manager too. 1-minute manager's game plan is implement 1 change per week with your people. And, like, just help them do 1 goal per week. By the end of 52 weeks, you've made 52 changes, typically become the best department in your company. And so if we apply that principle to reviews, if we get 2 reviews per week, that's 104 reviews at the end of the year. Right, and so you made a pretty big difference, and that's slow and there's ways to gamify it and make it easier, but automating it doesn't help because then you just alienate your audience. The audience is like, "Wow, you can't even care about me enough to talk to me about doing this." And now people are offended by it. So there's there's ways to do it, and, Sue Anderson, who's my content strategist, she's got great experience with driving reviews and knowing how to help push that process forward. So I would recommend talking to her about that. Um,
'Cause I
the
that is the Who Moved My Curves one is the one that, because that's my health book, and I literally just updated the content yesterday, updated the cover, and published it all just yesterday because I was starting with this new program, and I wanted to incorporate some of that language in it so that if someone reads it, they know what the next step is now
Yep.
with me. Um, because it is a standalone. If someone wants to do it, perfect. You could apply it and do it on your own. If you want to work with the coach, there's also that option, right? But getting it in people's hands where they actually then leave a review.
Mm.
People and I'm guilty of it. I'll read books and not write a review, and then I'm like, "Oh, Bernette,
Yeah.
just click that star. Just do it. Like,
Right.
take 3 seconds." And, you know,
It's hard to
and
do.
that's
It's
it
hard.
is.
It's it's gotta be part of the ecosystem,
Yeah.
and it's so worth it because you do that, right? It builds that instant credibility up. It has, again, the sheeple mentality. "Oh, everybody else is liking and reviewing this, I gotta get it too." Everybody jumps into Alex Hormozi's bandwagon, now everybody's talking about it because he did the Era Tour, he studied Taylor Swift and Tesla and how they did their launches, and, that's the type of stuff that I look at too. I'm like, "Okay, like, how are these people who are actually scaling frictionless? What are the little bitty elements that they're investing in?" And, that's the key, is they're investing in their processes to make it happen, whether it's a QR code that's in the book, that guides people through the process of buying the next book or going to the next landing page, or giving that review and teeing up with the URL that makes it super simple. There's lots of ways to create the different types of strategies, but for me, I'll back off the strategy component. That's what people usually want from me. I'm like, no, I want to work with a visionary whose vision we can respect. J.K. Rowling wrote a book on a napkin and became a billionaire. I would have never come up with that strategy. I would have told her not to do it. I would have blocked her divine insight, right, on what was there. So I don't like to do that anymore. But I do like to get to know business owners well, get to know what are their assets, what are they headed towards, what are those goals, and then we can build something divine. We can build something amazing based on that type of structure.
No, I will say that, and I don't have a lot of time left, but
You're good.
with all of the criteria that you listed before about the kind of people that you work with,
Mhm.
I'm not sure that I actually fit all of those things because I am
You're missing.
in one business. Like, I have not done, for example, money mojo coaching for 10 years or health coaching for 10 years, like that whole 10-year mark. Um,
How long have you
5
done it for?
as a standalone, I just started. So as a coach doing spiritual coaching, I was primarily doing spiritual coaching, and money kept coming up. And so around 2019, I found myself doing more and more of it. But it wasn't a stand, I should say, a breakout, like, I'm gonna focus more on this until this year. Earlier this year, I said, "Okay, Burnett, this is the season for people need to know this. They need this because the world isn't a place where people are struggling and they don't have hope. How do you combat that?" And so I said, "Okay, I'm gonna break this out and do more of that." And so that was this year focusing, well, actually breaking that piece out. And then the health coaching, almost 2 years of health coaching. And I wrote the book last September, published it last September. Haven't done the awesomest job in obviously getting reviews of it, and tried advertising it, but without the reviews. I mean, I've written books long enough for almost 9 years that I know advertising without reviews
Right. It's
doesn't.
you gotta focus the time and attention, energy on reviews. I'm with
Yeah,
you on that. Mhm.
yeah.
100%. And so I would agree that how long have you been a business owner for?
Well, before it was mostly spiritual, so I did, and that was
What was
since
it, 6
20.
years?
No, I've been doing spiritual coaching and stuff, since '09, 2010,
Okay. Do you mind if I ask how old your children are?
23, and 13.
Okay. So you've been a money coach, a spiritual coach, and a health coach for more than 10 years. in that regard.
If you combine it, if you
Yeah. Well, I mean, your kids, you've been teaching them
oh
in
my
life,
goodness,
and I see that you've taken that seriously, and that matters. That but I won't ignore the contingent reality of it's different, like, knowing how to run a team, right? It's different knowing how to work with executives, but I will say my favorite people to hire and work with are moms, because moms have to deal with insubordinate children. They can't fire them. They choose to love them. They find creative ways to make things work. They sacrifice so much. So when a mom understands that, it's sad when I see a mom who doesn't correlate it and doesn't want to, and is like, "Oh my gosh, I'm never going to be worth anything in the business world or in outside of being a mom." And I'm like, "Oh my!" Like I can't convince that person to get the mental block out of their way, but
and
they've had a way
stay.
harder path than somebody who's worked in a corporation. So there's some leadership skills that come along with momhood that are worth considering. But I will say that the big reason why the contingencies exist for me is the humility factor. And you do exercise a very high amount of humility. It's really hard to work with an entrepreneur that's um, either as self assured as I am. I'm extremely self assured. But if that self assured person is willing to listen and learn, and just needs to understand the why and the how, and they're willing to work on it without, like losing their leadership skills, that's okay. That's important. That's a good thing. That confidence. But if they breach the mode of arrogance where they shoot down things without like considering it because it's outside their wheelhouse, that tyranny that often exists, especially among the younger or less experienced entrepreneurs, that that buckles and cripples the ability to drive all the results forward, and usually demotivates a team as well. And the team is scared, and it's like, oh, I don't know how to perform with this person because their demands and their unreasonable nature makes it like I'm the one on the chopping block. And so I see that for my team members' sake. I see that for others' sakes. And then you end up with a culture of people. Then you always have a few team members who justify it if you're that type of entrepreneur. And the problem with that is now you've got people protecting your weaknesses in order to protect their cheap paychecks. But the toxicity that exists in that culture ends up being the very thing that's going to drive all great performers away continuously. And the entrepreneur always feels justified and protected because they're a little groupie, and it is making them feel good, but
Yeah,
it's because the groupie has a paycheck and is willing to stay in survival mode, even though the entrepreneur says they want to go into thrive mode. So those are the hidden secrets that most people don't have the patience to listen to, Burnett, even great leaders. So I wouldn't say it's not a hard and fast like, oh, you have to be all these. It's more of a boundaries style of, let's build towards these strengths. And if somebody lacks patience, I can help them with that. As long as they're honest and open about it, we can put other pieces in place to help them with where they lack patience. I do.
mhm.
I'm not very diplomatic. I need people by my side who can help me with the diplomatic stuff, because I will keep learning, but it's an uphill battle for me.
That seems interesting considering that you go different places and you have to be able to interact and adjust in these different cultures and places.
I'm evolving. I'm evolving, but it's the evolution, it comes with its pains, as well. But and it depends on the circumstance. So if I'm talking to a group of teenagers, then I don't have the same types of expectations on them.
Mhm.
And so and if I'm talking to a bunch of teenagers that come from the ghetto, and my vernacular is going to change, my tone, my cadence, the way I show up, the way I talk. I know how to fit into those circumstances. And I'm a big fan of the quote, "Expectations are the root of all heartache." I try really hard to self-discipline my expectations and realize that everything that I expect that comes true is a bonus, not something for me to be disappointed and heartbroken about. Aspirations align
Wow.
with hope. Expectations are a vice. And so, I learned that through a very difficult divorce, where I was victim of my expectations. And so those realities, um, with entrepreneurs, it can be hard because it's not just my expectations, right? Again, I've got a team to protect. I've got a family to provide for, your family, whatever entrepreneur I'm working with, they've got goals they wanna hit, and so if I'm doing everything I can to build their goals and they're not quite picking up the pieces in their accountability, then it can be a stressful reality of like, "Okay, well, how do I emotionally let go of that and allow that person to suffer the consequences?" But how do I also stand loyally by their side, faithful, and help them move their mountains? So some entrepreneurs are easier than others, but they're rare. That's why we have the qualification. It's like, okay, this is about the emotional intelligence of a long-term relationship, not
Right.
trying to get somebody committed to like a 30-day or a 90-day program because that's I want depth these days. I don't want cheap. I don't want quick.
No, this is great because I come across people at times. Um, it's good to know people and what they do and how they approach what they do. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I will see you next week on the show. We will do the full 20,
yeah.
25-minute segment. That will be amazing. Um, I would ask a couple people for reviews in the meantime for your book. That would be helpful. Just get a couple, guide a couple people through it by
Wow,
hand.
I find like you got it. Just take a second and just
I know it takes. We say a second. It takes 15 to 30 minutes. You got that relationship side, but hopefully the fruits of that will be them also looking at and investing in your other opportunities and what's there. Maybe they'll even do a promissory note with you for another one of your ventures. You never know.
like, see. Yeah. Well, we'll see because yeah, I have to think about a few things when we
Sure.
talk again. You've given me some food for thought.
Thank you. Well, you as well for me. If you think of anything further, if any other explorations pop in your brain as you're meditating, you're like, "Oh, Jackson needs to hear this." By all means, bring the gift of wisdom back to me.
And the same, if you think about something, please. This has been amazing. I truly
My big
appreciate.
one's planted. My big one's planted. It's Bernette. When you find the right people, find ways for them. That's my
uh,
big one. Is if I want LeBron James, the first thing I need to do is go like this. Here's your no, 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 wrong page. Let's go back to it. LeBron, here's your contract. What do you want? That's how you recruit LeBron. That's how you do it. So lots of opportunities. So I'll talk to you soon, Burnett. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for the extra time.
Thank you so much. You have a great afternoon.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.